Who is Laura Elliott?
For me, I think kindness is always going to be one of the values. Curiosity, discipline.
Play an instrument?
Yeah, I play the cello.
Do you?
I didn't know you didn't know
No,
that
actually,
either.
I did. I did
Okay.
know that. I completely forgot it.
So basically, if I kind of break down what polyvagal theory is, right? So it's about the nervous system, and it's
Welcome to the Zest Method channel. I'm Amelia, an ex-army doctor and founder of a preventative medicine coaching business called, you guessed it, the Zest Method. I have an insatiable curiosity about the subconscious mind and self-betterment, and so I'm hoping to, through this medium, share what I learn and hopefully help humans feel better, not perfect.
yeah. So the other two pillars. The second pillar is something called neuroception, which is a term that Stephen Porges coined when he was creating the polyvagal theory, which basically
I'm
just
already
means,
excited.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. So it means, it's basically like think of perception, but neuroception. So it's what your nerves and your nervous system is perceiving. So that is basically like your senses. So that is, in this room, for example, what are we noticing?
Freezing cold.
Right? Yeah, you cold.
No, I'm okay.
But that's interesting, isn't it? Because there'll be an element of you that won't be able to fully relax when you're really cold, because there's a bit of threat. I don't want to call it threat, but I agree with you. I'm glad I've got the jumper on. Yeah, so you're right. That's like one of your senses is your ability to perceive things about your environment. So kind of you can think of it like a little kind of scanner or antenna. It's like, what is your nervous system picking up all the time about your environment that it needs to know about, right? Because all that any species cares about is survival, which comes down to safety. So all the time, and this is subconscious, a lot of it as well, it's kind of picking up cues of threat or safety in the environment. So when you're walking down the street, this is happening right all the time without us really even being aware of it. What's happening above us, what's happening in the sky, what's happening in the world, in the news, right? But also it's like, how does my internal environment feel? Am I cold? Am I too hot? Am I hungry? Am I in pain? Am I developing an illness? And then externally, it's like, okay, who's that? Who's that person over there? They don't look good, And do you ever, that kind of, in terms of like vibes, right? There are people that just give you bad vibes or good vibes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think women definitely have a very, very high radar for that.
Because of safety, right? We have to keep ourselves safe. So, yeah, exactly that, right? You just have a feeling and you don't know why.
Intuition.
That's what Stephen Porges would call neuroception, right? A neuroception of danger or a neuroception of safety. There are people, for whatever reason, that make you feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And that's some cue, something that they're giving off in your environment that makes you feel a certain way. So that's kind of the second pillar. It's kind of like understanding cues of safety or threat in your environment, internal or external.
Does that also include, one of my strongest senses is noses. And so it's nothing to do with cleanliness or anything, but if someone doesn't smell good to me, like their pheromones are like, no, I don't like this, then that'll be a really good indicator of like, this is not a good person.
Oh, interesting.
Would that even fall under, or will this be more the olfactory system and ENT? There'd be something completely separate?
No, I would imagine that would be. Because if you think about it like from an evolution kind of standpoint, say, for example, say your mum always smelled of, I don't know, like pears or something random, then every time you smelled that, you would feel a sense of safety because of
you say that
primary caregiver.
To mummy, I smell like peaches.
Really? Oh, that's quite nice.
It's lovely. I was like, oh, I'll keep that.
Peaches, that's really nice. Okay. So yeah, for example, so then there'll be an association of smell for you. That's why you have a really strong association of those things on some level, whether that's kind of like a memory sense or deep embedded kind of within the nervous system. And don't forget that attachment as well, in attachment theory, kind of shapes your nervous system as well. So if you, I don't know, say if for example, your mum, right, she would probably love the smell of peaches because of all the positive association, and that has shaped her nervous system. She might be in the world's most dangerous war zone, but if she sees peaches, she'll get a neuroception of safety, right? And in that moment, there'll be a bit of a brief kind of reprieve from that. So it does really relate to that, right? Because there'll be people, for whatever reason, that maybe on some level deep down will remind you of something bad that happened to you when you're younger. You can't remember it necessarily, but that smell was associated, and that's maybe a strong kind of memory trigger for you.
Yeah.
So for you, I'd probably suggest that actually you use that to your advantage, right?
Yeah.
When you feel anxious, if you know that your kind of, if scent is a big thing, you'd say, right, I'm gonna carry this scent with me that reminds me of safety. So that when I start to feel anxious, I use this thing, I get this neuroception, this cue of safety from this particular scent, and I can calm my nervous system down.
And that's why we all may be drawn to certain aftershaves or perfumes, because there's one that gets me in the mood for a night out. I'm like,
right,
let's
exactly.
Go.
Yeah.
That's really good. So maybe it's a sleep time.
Yeah.
Nighttime, maybe a nice smell that reminds me. Because the pheromones are used for dating. It's very helpful. I'm like, nope. Because I had this where this girl was really, really, really attractive. Yeah. So I was like, great, we'll go on a date. And then I was like, something is not right here. But I was like, she's so gorgeous, I can't not. So we went on several dates, and then eventually it proved to be right.
Wow.
I was like, you should listen to that long.
Yeah, like that intuition. But that's interesting as well, isn't it? Because people talk about intuition as like gut instinct. And that is the vagus nerve, right? The gut is just a huge, huge part of where the nervous system, the vagus nerve comes into play, right? It's all mediated by the vagus nerve, like gut sensitivity, gut intuition.
And that's actually what did inspire the podcast, because I have lost touch with my gut instinct.
Wow.
That I sometimes, when it comes to making a really important call, and my parents or someone close to me will say, just really listen to your gut. What does it say? That'll tell you the answer. And I'm like,
I had exactly the same thing. Yeah. And actually now it sounds really awful, but like I had this time maybe like 5 years ago where I would joke that whatever my gut told me to do, I'd do the opposite because I knew it was so wrong.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I'm like, oh, that's so sad. Like not to be able to trust yourself, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it is quite scary sometimes to trust your gut, to like really be able to kind of listen in, because you can't always explain it, right?
Yeah.
Especially for this, I don't know, this person who, I don't know, this girl who's so attractive. How do you tell her, no, I'm not interested anymore? You can't be like, oh, just your pheromones are off. Or,
yeah. You know. She'd be like, I smell bad. Like, it's nothing to do with cleanliness at all. It's just hormones. And...
Yeah, exactly. But that's it. Yeah, that's definitely a kind of shown thing, isn't it? That we detect that on some level. And that makes sense, doesn't it, as well? Because probably on some level, there's some kind of reminder, not to get too kind of Freudian, but there's probably some reminder of something that embeds safety within you from childhood, that about certain pheromones or certain smells.
This whole thing I just find so fascinating and interesting. This is why I've gone down this rabbit hole and it'd have never left, because the more you start learning and reading, you then take a different tunnel and it leads you to I've drawn you away from the third pillar.
The third pillar is co-regulation, which is a really nice. It's a nice pillar. We like co-regulation because
nice.
Yeah, it sounds really nice, right? This is basically people that it's like kind of good vibes only club, right? They often describe it as say you're really cold and you go and sit by the fire and you use the fire's warmth to heat you up. That's what we do as like we're a sociable species, right? A whole kind of, particularly humans, but other mammals do it too. We're kind of built to be social and socially engaged with each other. And so we depend on co-regulation for safety. So this is literally being with family. This is being with friends. This is being in healthy relationships. It's basically the way that two nervous systems play off each other, but only for good, really, is how I understand it. It's kind of like, you feel a bit anxious, there's someone you probably go to. Yeah. They're in a good place. They're regulated in themselves, the top of the ladder. So they become this kind of way of you feeling safe again. They bring you back into safety just by virtue of them being a safe person. That's co-regulation.
And is it a bit like the perfect way to describe it is, how some people really bring you up and you when you're around them, you just always leave that interaction feeling energized, empowered. Exactly. And then you have those dementors who you just sap everything from you, either from the room and people just avoid them, or equally you come away feeling drained.
Exactly.
So I'm assuming this is something to do with co-regulation as well.
And in a way, it's kind of the interplay of all those things, right? There's an element of co-regulation that is, but also neuroception and also where you are on the ladder. Because one of the things that polyvagal theory is much more known amongst therapists, because it's they use it largely in kind of, mostly in America, but in terms of like therapy, right? Because if a therapist is not regulated, so we, would use the term dysregulated to describe someone like Donald Trump, for example, someone who's like doesn't have a sense of we could really go
I could have time for that.
Someone who is, I guess, not really emotionally regulated, right? They're kind of prone to anger, they're just kind of quite irrational. They kind of are people that might start wars, start fights, right? Because they're not in a place where they're calm, they're not connected to themselves, to other people. They probably in some way obviously aren't feeling safe in themselves. So yeah, it's kind of, what did you ask me? Just about whether in terms of co-regulation and people feeling a certain way. And yeah, so it's kind of like if you take someone who's really, that's it, therapists, Donald Trump. So people go to therapy, right? They need the therapist to be regulated. No one's going to go to the therapy with Donald Trump, right? You're not going to get a great response out of him. You want your therapist to be calm, right? Because then your nervous system can feel safe, right? And then you can access more kind of emotions. And also, if you are diving into something difficult in therapy, you're probably coming out of that top of the ladder ventral vagal state. You're entering something, it doesn't feel safe to talk about difficult stuff. You need someone there as like a safe anchor so you can co-regulate with your therapist. So that's really that's why a lot of therapists like polyvagal theory, because it makes them realize, how do I keep myself regulated so that all of my kind of therapeutic interactions can be helpful, Because if I didn't feel safe with a therapist, we'd both be kind of in this like awful fight flight thing.
Yes.
The rational part of our brains would switch off.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't really get anywhere, right? Because everything's kind of, no, not talking to you. Self-preservation. No.
I suppose that's the importance of why you have to find the right therapist, because the amount of times, myself included, equally patients, they've had really bad experience that counselling doesn't work, I don't like it, the therapist made me feel small, or they just kept revisiting previous stories and maybe sort of relived trauma again and again and again. But then equally, if you find the right one, you can cover a lot of ground,
right?
And they're just outside a perspective on some things that you're so blinded by. I'm a huge advocate for therapy counselling. I think it's wonderful.
Yeah.
So that makes total sense.
Yeah, but you're absolutely right. It has to be the right person, And the same with any, relationship, if you want it to be healthful and helpful, is to find the right person, because it's someone that will enable you to take that kind of threat side of you, that hypervigilant side of you offline, so you can really access kind of deep emotional, like intimacy, physical intimacy. You have to, if you want to access those states, you have to feel safe, right? Otherwise they're just not going to be available to you. So yeah, absolutely, you have to find someone that feels safe. So I agree, it's not a one size fits all. If you've had a bad experience, kind of, it doesn't mean it's never going to happen for you. It's just trying again with someone that your nervous system obviously feels safe with. Yeah.
So I knew this would happen. I'm horrified to see we only actually have 15 minutes left.
Wow, okay.
Which is a shame, because there's just so many questions I have.
Good.
So if we maybe were to help people take away some actual points about maybe what they can maybe start doing to be able to, and I'm going to be listening as well, because one of your videos I watched at Get Nervous, great handle, by the way.
Thank you.
Is you were saying that, what?
It's very tongue-in-cheek, isn't it? Get Nervous.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. One of the things I really struggle with is falling asleep.
Okay, interesting.
And I remember one of your videos saying, if you don't feel psychologically, subconsciously safe, then you won't allow yourself to fall asleep. And so I don't think we'll have probably time, sadly, for me to be your case study. But maybe just some actual points or takeaways of maybe the things that people can start doing or take away with to maybe get higher up the ladder.
Yeah. God, it sounds like Scientology or something. Ascend. Yeah.
Because I want to be up here.
You want to
with
be
ventral vagal,
looking down on all the rest.
Because I'm always chilling in the middle bit of the ladder. The sympathetic drive is on. Always.
But do you know what though? Like, one of my kind of mantras in life is all change starts with awareness. you have to kind of know where you are on the ladder to do something about it.
Yeah.
So actually one of the best things that people can do, and that's very much like where I started with using polyvagal theory to help me, for me to feel better and not feel anxious or depressed, is to know where you are. And you can just do that by like simple check-ins. So once you kind of understand the 3 states, one of the really helpful things to do is kind of outline for yourself how you are in each state. So for example, okay, Laura in ventral vagal, I'm happy, calm, connected. The world feels like an inspiring place for me to be in.
Yeah.
Okay. Then if I'm in sympathetic, okay, so Laura in this is a little nervous, a little bit anxious, a little bit wired, and the world could be safe. It's kind of a, I could use this energy in a good way. I can do a lot of sport, right?
Yeah.
I can really mobilize
Just
myself.
run half marathons.
Just run a half marathon, right? Great, yeah. So the world, it's kind of fizzing with potential, but it's a bit unsettling. I'm detecting some threat. That's kind of how the world looks to me in sympathetic. In dorsal, that's where, in dorsal, this is the one I'm probably more familiar with. This is, I feel really exhausted and I don't know why. I don't really want to speak to anyone. The world isn't really safe for me. I'd rather kind of not go outside. I don't want to really speak to anybody. I'm not kind of interested in, I can't think of ideas. I can't be creative right now. I don't even want to read a book, That's the bottom. So when you start to kind of learn, and bear in mind, we kind of move through a lot of these different, there's someone great called Deb Dana, who is kind of, I describe as Stephen Porges' kind of left-hand lady. She's a therapist and she often describes this as a pie chart. So, if you had to kind of break down your day, what percentage, say in our day so far, how much time have you spent in ventral vagal? How much of the time have you kind of tipped more over into sympathetic? Probably more today just because of like the setting, right? Have there been moments where you've dipped down into that kind of dorsal shutdown? How have you moved yourself back? What helped? And it's starting to just kind of build that awareness. And it's a practice, right, of just noticing, okay, where was I this morning? Okay, how did I move out of that? When I felt really like, say I drove this morning, right? Then driving always sets me off. How did I regulate? Oh, that great tune came on the radio and I sang along to it. Okay, by singing, I'm toning my vagal nerve, vagus. So that's like, vagal toning stuff, exercises like that. I can take a couple of, when you've had so stressful and you go, that's like vagal toning. That's a sigh that releases some of that pent up energy, helps to bring us back the ladder. So there's kind of little things like that you're probably already doing.
My pie chart will be wide and tight, and then maybe a slither of ventral vagal first thing in the morning when I have my coffee in my balcony.
Okay, nice. Okay.
I can achieve anything in the world today. And then it goes into just it's just like flat. Just and then I can't fall asleep ever.
Oh, right, really interesting. So what that kind of suggests, obviously you need those moments, don't you, in the day to come back down, but you can use. What's really good as well is not to kind of give up hope. This is something that Deb Dana calls like glimmers and glimpses. It's like glittering moments of being in ventral vagal, right? So even though if you feel like 98% of the time you're in sympathetic and you're stressed, that moment you described this morning, that's a little glimmer, a glimpse of what things could be like. And it's just kind of noticing that and kind of drawing it out. What was it about what is it about those moments? What are you doing in those moments? How does the world look? How do you feel? What are you thinking about? What are you wearing? How do you hold your body? What are you like? What does it smell like? What are you looking at? You're looking at the balcony, you're looking at nature, you've got a cup of coffee, it's warm, maybe you feel the sun, maybe you're in kind of soft clothing. All of those things, it's like kind of really build up that picture for yourself in those moments where you feel like that. What does that picture look like? What does the world look like to you? And then how can you bring more of that in?
Okay, so almost like the first stage is self-awareness.
Yeah.
Or insight at least, which I always think is sometimes the biggest step.
It is, I think.
So then the second almost step that people could do is, well, when I feel in that sort of top of the ladder, try and do that more often or try and get yourself more often. More awareness of what that textures, smells.
Yeah. A bit of that. So there's the senses. The other thing is like, what do they call when you're learning at literally primary school. And it's like the who, what, where, when, why, how questions. It's kind of taking that approach. So when the world feels safe to me, who am I with? You know, where am I? What am I doing? What am I looking at? You know, how do things appear? How do I feel? Where, you know, all those kind of W questions, I guess, apart from the how. You know, what does it smell like? What am I wearing? How do clothes feel? All of those things, and actually building out those questions to build your own picture.
Fascinating.
You know, so it sounds almost kind of simple, but we don't realize all the time that, like, how much kind of what I'd call neuroception of safety we get from small things. You know, seeing something green, seeing something familiar. So certainly familiarity, like the nervous system absolutely loves routine and familiarity and predictability, because something predictable is, right, safe, because, or maybe it's not safe, but it's something
what's going to happen.
right? We know what's going to happen. So already we've eliminated a lot of threat. So certainly if you're feeling more kind of anxious or in one of those other kind of states other than the top of the ladder, it's about building back routines. So maybe routine's really helpful as well when you're feeling anxious, building familiar things in your environment.
That's probably how I managed to survive in the middle ladder and never drop down into playing dead, because routines are rigid because of my discipline.
Wow, yeah.
That's probably how I control that, maybe.
Yeah.
That's how I managed to semi-regulate. So I'm never optimum, but I'm always there, because maybe it's the routines that really hold me in place, perhaps.
Exactly.
Maybe as a crutch. Because as soon as routine is taken away from me, it's not a pretty sight.
Yeah, well, exactly. And that's each of us, what you've described there is that we're all different, right? You know, the things that make me feel safe will be different to what makes you feel safe. Your mum obviously loves peaches, right? You know, peaches don't mean that much to me, right? But for her, great, you know, she could have peach covered, you know, cushions in her home, makes her feel safe, probably on some subliminal level, right? Because it reminds her of you. So once you start to identify these little things that are specific to you and your sense of safety and who you are, then you can start to kind of build up that toolkit, you know. So it's kind of like if I'm aware, okay, my nervous system likes predictability and familiarity, I know that there's going to be an element of when I go to a new place that's not going to feel safe. You know, it's going to be harder to regulate in a place I've never been before with people I've never been around.
Yeah. So
that's when things like, okay, how can I visualize the space? How can I mentally prepare myself? Can I imagine myself, say I'm giving a talk in a building I've never been to? Can I literally just Google image a picture of the room and then visualize it and then imagine myself there? And I might even, so like cello performances, I might picture myself on stage. I might even wear the same things I'll wear when I perform, because all of that is like mental rehearsal, mental preparation for my nervous system, so that when it comes to it, it doesn't feel so unpredictable and so unfamiliar. So I'm offering myself as much kind of chance of safety as often as I can. And those just kind of nudges you always towards regulation.
So so I would always love to be able, this is a bit of a left field question, but I would love to sleep on planes.
Okay.
But I can't. And when someone falls asleep next to me, I look at them with rage. Like, why can't I do that? And they'll wake up after a 13-hour flight, like, it went by so quickly. And I'm just been there almost on the brink of insanity. Like,
wow.
It's been the longest flight ever. And I just would love be able to, but you can feel myself like occasionally drop it, and then my body will be like, nope, it's not safe. Don't fall asleep.
Yeah.
How can I perhaps use this polyvagal theory in this instant to help me fall asleep? If that's it, maybe I'm just barking up the wrong tree here, and it's not meant to be actually maybe applied to plain sleep. But are there certain things that I could do to be able to fall asleep, generally in life, but also
generally
on planes?
We've got taken a lot
4
of planes.
minutes. Yeah, good luck.
Okay, good. Fine, no pressure. Yeah. So again, it's using all the same things. That if I were you, I would kind of embrace familiarity. So I would wear pajamas that I love, washed in literally a laundry powder that makes me feel a certain way of scents, really, because I love scent too. I would take my favorite perfume. I would, you know, if you find lavender or essential oils really soothing, I would take those. I would, I might watch, instead of like a new kind of series on the kind of in-flight entertainment, I'd watch something that makes me feel safe, like Friends.
Yeah.
I'd try and find something, or I'd download something that I know really well, you know, something that feels really familiar. I don't know, you might even, if you feel really anxious, you might kind of look through a couple of photos on your phone to remind you of like, oh, I remember that time I was on holiday with my friend, and remember how it felt to kind of be in the sun and feel, and offer your nervous system all these opportunities to remind yourself about safety. But also I would like really take time to kind of be in the space. So we do this a lot at the start of yoga class as well. Like, just take your time to kind of look around you. Just be like, okay, that's where the exits are. That's who's sitting next to me. Okay, who are my like air hosts and hostesses today? Okay, what's the color of the roof here? You know, what do these kind of armrests feel like? Like, such simple stuff, but just means that those parts of your brain that are having to be hypervigilant, you kind of give them the room, you know, for a minute, and say, look, get it, okay? What does it smell like? Where am I? What does the ceiling look like? How big is this plane? Who am I sitting next to? All of those things, so that you can say, right, tick it off. You guys can go to sleep. You sentry level people don't need to be just constantly looking out, because we know what's here. None of that's going to change, right? The scene is going to be the same when you land. So it's kind of like offering yourself as much opportunity to kind of to notice those things, so that you can start to turn down that kind of hypervigilant part of you that's the part that wants to keep you awake. But it's not the most natural environment. So it may not come that easily, right? But those are just like ways that you might, if you like routine, you might even establish a routine.
Yes.
You might have in the nights before you got on the plane, maybe
Visualize me in, yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. When I go to Greece next month, I'll give it a go.
Nice. Okay. Good.
And we didn't even get on to yoga or all the other things. I knew this would happen. I did say to you, the hour will fly by, and it has done. So I have to get you around for episode, in the future. Nice. So yeah, we literally got a minute to go. So I just want to say thank you so much for today. I've learned so much.
Great.
Yeah, I was so excited to hear all this and all those words and terms. Like, oh gosh,
you're loving it.
I can't wait to. Luckily, I've got this now. I can take notes when I get back.
I do.
And maybe start learning more about it myself.
Good. Yeah.
And have you, I'm assuming, implemented those things into your life as well?
Yeah. Honestly, when you realize like what state you're in and what you need, you just keep bouncing up to the top of the ladder.
Yeah.
And life's great up there.
Yeah. Oh, and you mentioned something about shaking.
Yes.
And you shake off. So maybe we literally don't have that much longer.
Yeah, I just do that. You know, when I feel anxious and I get a bit shaky, you just need to diffuse the adrenaline, and shaking is an amazing way. It's movement.
So, because obviously it's antisocial sometimes to go for a sprint when you're in your suit. So we're shaking.
Shaking, yeah, I do that a lot. Breathing out, humming, lots of out breaths, kind of like literally just do this. Before I play the cello, I'm like doing this a lot.
Really?
Humming, sounding, singing, yawning. Yawning and stretching is my favourite.
Okay.
Yawning and stretching. We do that a lot in yoga.
And that will be practicing vagal tone.
Yeah, or vagal toning, yeah. Building the muscle, yeah.
Right, let's shake like Taylor Swift. Fab. Well, right, that's us done then, isn't it, Dan? Yeah. Great.
I hope you don't fall asleep, Dan.
No, I actually took so many notes.
Oh, really? I knew you would.
I'm not even joking.
Really? Okay, good. Oh, really? That's great. Okay.
That's fabulous.